Welcome to Celebrity Fight Club Podcast. I'm here with a very special guest today. She's not just a national radio host, she's also the top 7 female voice in the country, the one and only Tia Christy. What's up, Tia?
Hello, Damon. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I've known you a long time. We just recently hooked up again. Glad to see you. And I have a bunch of questions for you, but tell everyone, what is it like being a female in being a female host in the radio business, the media business? What's it like?
Well, I'm not physically fighting, you know.
That's
not what I'm here for. But it is a fight.
We should say that. Make sure.
Yeah. But it is a fight, and I think that's why you have me here, you know, to tell people like about it being such a battle, being a female in that world. You know, I think a lot of people don't realize when it comes to a lot of this different media, especially radio, it's only like 10% of the population is female. So it's something that you really got to fight for in that industry. So
right.
I did that for many, many years, and I've worked from, you know, Philadelphia to Seattle, so
yeah,
all in between, and you know, it's been fantastic. It was such a lovely journey. And then when the pandemic happened, I kind of pivoted. You know, everybody loves that word. I pivoted.
Right.
And then I ended up going back to kind of my writing roots and did a TEDx that went viral. So that kind of changed like the trajectory of everything that I've been doing. And, you know, I moved into the entrepreneurial space.
Yeah.
And now I really help people communicate a lot better. So
No, I noticed that. We talked about that previous. I know last week you hosted a seminar or a summit, a keynote. You're a keynote speaker.
Yes.
You did it for Princeton University. That's awesome. Now that was actually online, right?
No. So
or that was in person.
That was in person,
Okay.
and I actually was invited to Princeton University to give their keynote. Super exciting. I mean, talk about, you know, these awesome things that come in, and you know, so I've gotten to do a lot of awesome things, especially recently. Like the trajectory has just been, you know, what do they call it, that hockey stick?
Sure.
You know, that's that upswing. You know, I was named Female Entrepreneur Cover Girl for their magazine. You know, I've just been doing my thing. You know, I'm out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So as far as being a keynote speaker, tell everyone what a keynote speaker is. A lot of people may not know. When you're speaking and you're a keynote speaker, what does that mean?
It's kind of like the headline fighter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you
main
might
event.
Yeah, the main event. You might have some other speakers come into play. This was actually I was the main event for the day, and it was
awesome.
to kick off like their whole week of festivities with what they were doing for the campus. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That is awesome. That really is. You know, I know you speak well. You've always been a motivated girl. So, like, what's the biggest struggle, or, you know, for a female getting into to being a radio host? Or I see a lot of females in TV, and I hear some in radio. But is it more male dominant, or
Absolutely.
what? So,
yeah.
So
absolutely.
why is that?
So, you know, I think that it's just comfort. I think for a long time, you know, I think for a long time it was males were in charge, and it just made it easier to have the norm be male. But as times have been changing, and they really have changed and accelerated so much over, especially the last handful of years. You know, women are being more embraced. You know, the ageism isn't really a problem anymore. You know, before you had to have a certain look, you had to be a certain age, you had to, you know, always appear available, or, you know, something along those lines, where, you know, nowadays that's kind of frowned upon, you know, to tell somebody how they have to be in the industry. You just have to have the talent, and you have to be good. And, you know, you really have to get out there and hustle and make your bones. And then you'll eventually be able to understand your worth and really be able to, you know, kind of set it on fire. I think also one of the things that has benefited is social media. A lot of people have their social media following, and that is very female dominated. So, but
is that more having social media, has that taken away from radio hosts and so forth? And like, it seems like podcasts, it's all about podcasting nowadays.
Oh,
you know
yeah,
what I mean?
definitely.
So, I remember back in the days with, even when you were there, you were Q102 and just, I mean, where is like the DJ business now? Where is the radio host? Is it still
Yeah.
relevant?
It is still relevant because I think people are always going to, fall back on
Right.
the radio, but it is not the industry that it once was. I mean, you went from people, 6 figures, 7 figures to,
Right,
now
Yeah,
they're not making that.
No Howard Stern money, right?
No, not for many people. And it really became syndication.
Right.
Like that's how companies were saving a lot of money.
Yes.
They get a big name and then they syndicate it to 50 states.
I love that. That's you talking about that's very
Right.
important. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and but it did take away a lot of jobs from
Right.
people, and it took away that hometown feel. That oh, they know me. Like I would always go out to gigs. You would be at the local car dealership or something like that, or we would have the big concerts, and it was guaranteed that people were going to meet, and I was part of people's special day. And now when you do syndication, and I did a little bit of syndication, you don't have as the personality, you don't have that anymore, but as the audience, you don't have that anymore either.
So with radio, but when you're saying that, like as far as radio goes, I mean, everybody, if you're in your car, you're going to listen to radio. You got to hear music, or sometimes now you go to your, I go to YouTube and I put it on, or Spotify or something like that. But don't you think is there still a radio market out there, like for business, or not really?
Absolutely, like advertising and stuff like that. I think is radio is always going to be the way to go when you're doing advertising, because again, people are paying for these streaming apps. They're also not getting ads. So,
Sure.
Like it has to come around at some point in time, right?
Right.
So you go into a store, a lot of stores, if you notice, are using radio stations. They're not using these, these CDs that they used to have.
Sure.
Remember, like a store would have like a book of CDs that would come, and then that's the music that would play. But now they use the local radio, and then you hear the advertisements. So definitely, radio is not dead. It's just kind of taken a different turn on what the industry once was. And like podcasts, I actually had a conversation with somebody yesterday. Malaysia, they're not into podcasts. Like if you have a podcast in Malaysia, you're not really going to get the following. But there are like maybe
Malaysia, the company? I mean, the country?
The country, right.
Wow.
Yeah, so, but maybe there's like 2 very popular ones that are taking place that the citizens of Malaysia listen to.
Right.
So I mean, it's not to say that it's all over the world, but they still have their radio stations over there, and
Nice.
they still have their specialties. Like I think this is pretty cool. Like we used to do at the top of the hour, take a deep breath. Yeah, exactly. And in other countries, they actually have like pause for workout, so
Nice.
they make sure like people stand up from their chairs, and, they wave their hands and different things like that. So I still think that radio is always going to have a place in people's lives. It's just not going to be as prevalent as it used to be.
So what inspired you to want to be a radio host?
Oh, my goodness. So my cousin was in the industry when I was a kid, and he used to call and wake me up live on air.
Can you say his name?
I usually
You
don't.
want to say it?
Yeah,
Don't
I
worry,
usually
don't.
don't.
I know who it is.
You do
Let
know who
everybody
it is.
guess. He's was a popular guy, and he fought in celebrity boxing.
He did.
Take a guess.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Very good.
So, he would wake me up, and he found it hilarious,
Yeah.
and it was funny. I wasn't a morning person at the time, but at that point in time, I did not think I was going to go into radio. It was
Right.
not. It wasn't a dream or anything like that. But then I ended up just I was studying pre-law. I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do when I got to that point. I wanted to study law. I wanted to be a fashion designer.
Yeah.
I wanted to do like all these things, and I really had a creative streak. So I found my outlet in club DJing, and I was a chick that could spin back in the day, and like literal like turntables, records, all that stuff. When they used to do it right, and not saying they don't anymore, but it was you had to have muscles to like carry all that stuff around too,
right.
But yeah, I started doing that, and then I was at a nightclub on Delaware Avenue of all places, and I was still a kid, teenager, and radio station walked in to do their night, and I was on the mic, and they came over and they said, "Hey, you got some skills. Let's do something about that."
Nice.
So that's kind of how I ended up getting into radio, and it kind of just took off from there.
So do you think like maybe there's a different, more of an interest for humans like that they want to hear? Because a big thing in would probably be like dating. Like a lot of people want to know how to date nowadays, and it's like weird because everything's changed. The pandemic, there's clubs. It's just a weird time dating. Everybody goes on apps. You don't even know if there's the real person on an app. And one thing I hate about because I went on an app a couple of times. I don't know. It got I got to admit, I was on an app trying to figure it out because I can't find the right person. I'm a picky guy, and I'm a weird guy. So I'm weird as far as someone taking care of themselves. So it's very important for someone to take care of themselves. And just if they're on they fit what you want. You know what I mean?
Right.
So in dating, like, what do you think like in radio and dating, like that would be a good, like a piece, like a segment, like it'd be a dating segment would be really cool. I don't know why. I don't know how I'm getting into this talking about
Okay,
this.
well, we actually used to do that, and we were talking about like one of the things that I do. I give dating tips because I have the website Tips from Tia. So
that's right. How did I say it? Tips from Tia.
Tips from Tia, and so with that, I started that back in 2012, and that kind of just blew up. Like it was.
Are you a professional dater?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay, go
ahead. No, we're all weird. I think that's what it comes down to. And I've never been on an app, like never done that.
Right.
Because honestly, that just would have been really hard for me.
Right.
Especially like people knowing me locally, like any town that I was in, people always knew who I was. And, radio's funny. Like people, and I'm very blessed to say, like people really become loyal and they become invested. So I really didn't want that part of my life being like publicized or anything like that. But when I started Tips from Tia, we do tips on health, beauty, home, sexual health, mental health. We try to make the uncomfortable comfortable. Like that's the whole purpose behind it. And one of the things that I found was dating tips were like really big, and we were doing dating, like this dating segment on the radio at that time, and it was weird. It was hard, and we had to watch because like some of it can really go against like FCC rules and different things like that. So we had to be very, very careful in how we played it.
Right.
But then when I was doing Tips from Tia, at the same time, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a great spot where I can start to give dating tips to help people out and make their dating lives
I want to
better.
hear some tips. Like, tell me a little bit about tips. Like when you say tips, so you're going to give me tips. Like what's a good male's approach to a woman?
Okay, well, all right. Like I have 3 important dating tips for men. So number 1, be personable. Being personable is important. And I think along the lines with that is we live in a society where people are really dry nowadays. Like you text somebody and you get like one word back or, like I'm not saying you have to write back a novel, but you'd like just at least be, personable in it. And,
But how? So tell the approach. But what are you saying? Like when you're saying that, so I'm a guy, I want to meet a girl. Mm-hmm. I'm a good looking dude. I'm successful. I'm going to go up to her, but I'm still hesitant because if I see a good-looking girl or whatever, I'm like, maybe they have to be in shape. I'm really picky, right? So, what would be the great
Well, I think it comes down to, just basically, when you introduce yourself, I think you say, "Hi, I'm Damon." Da 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 da. When you ask about them, I think it's important not to ask about, what they do right out the gate. A lot of people think that's like the icebreaker. What do you do? But I think it's more important. Like I used to use, what is your passion? I used to love asking people that because I want to know what somebody's passion is.
Right.
And I'm not talking about, that kind of passion, but I'm talking about like in life and in general, like what moves you? What inspires you? Because I don't want somebody that's, vapid or, one dimensional, I guess is the way to say it. I want somebody that has many, many layers. I'm an onion. I have many, many layers,
Sure.
So I think when you're getting to know somebody, why not ask a hard question first? Like, what moves you?
Well, let me ask you. So is a woman looking for a successful guy, good-looking guy? Is she looking to go with a guy? Do you think women are more looking for guys that are successful and they're going to be like living a free life, basically?
So I think that was the MO like back in the day, right? We live in a very independent society now, because somebody put it wonderfully, and they said women are just tired of having to step up all the time, and they kind of learned that they can be responsible for their own income and their own success and things like that. So, it's not something that, they rely on a man to do anymore.
Sure.
Anyway, they were tired of just finding boys, quote unquote, right? They wanted to find somebody that was going to be, that man, that one that's going to give them that safe place to land.
Right.
And I think that's what women want nowadays is that safe place to land. I don't need you to, do all of this for me, but, women also need to realize that the hero complex is a real thing that
What's
men
that? What
have.
is that?
Okay, so men, it's instinctual in them. They need to be the hero. They have to.
Right.
It's just something that they were born with in their genes, right? So, to sit there and say, well, I don't need a man to save me. Well, now you're taking away his livelihood. Like this is what he was born to do.
Right.
So you have to be respectful in the fact that that is one of his traits, and that's what he's going to need to do, right? So, it's I think it's respectful to understand that you can allow that. And, these soft skills that we talk about, you've heard of soft skills where, it's you have to, have to communicate better and have to, have this softness about you. That really is important going into relationships because it is.
I hear what you're saying, but also you live one life, right?
Right.
So I dated a lot of women who I like, who I didn't like. I believe, if a woman just wants me for money or success, then she doesn't really care about me. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
So, but again, I'm not that girl. She could say she wants my money or whatever she wants, but number one, she has to take care of herself from head to toe. She has to make sure when she's talking to me, she brushes her teeth or
Right.
make sure she has a piece of gum in her mouth. Like you have to be the best version of yourself to want to hang out with me because I'm not going to hang with just anybody. You know what I mean? I want a woman that's going to has like a heart, you know what I mean? Has like drive and wants to make it big because that's the only type of person who's going to be with a guy like me because I'm expecting a lot out of a woman, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And not too much, but just have motivation in life. So, and being a guy like that's been around and stuff like that, it's sort of tough because where we're at in Delaware County and stuff, and in Miami, it's like fresh breeze, man. I go to Miami, it's a whole different world. So that being said, so a guy's approach, I mean, that's what I'm saying to you. Like, do I just come out and be, hey, how you doing? My name's Damon. What's up? Do I come off as a player type talk, or do I come off as authentic and then the girl's like, this guy's a goofball. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to be a certain way.
You have to come off authentic. You're going to attract what you're going to attract. Okay, so if you come off as a player, you're going to get a girl that deals with players.
Right.
It's not going to be something that is going to have longevity. It's probably going to be something that is, very fleeting. If you come off authentic and they're like, oh, he's a goofball, he's not for me. Bam, you eliminated something that would take longer, to figure out.
Well, would a woman be like, if I come in, hey, how you doing? My name's Damon.
Yeah.
And this guy's a geek or some weirdo. Like, this guy's weird.
Oh,
like,
my gosh.
But
first off, I've known you forever.
No, I know that.
It's like, I can't imagine like anybody being like, oh my gosh, this guy's a geek.
But it's the approach. It's like, it's crazy. Like, everybody's scared. It's the first. How do you make that approach? Hey, how you doing? I'm Damon. Or what do I just say? Hey, I'm Damon. Like, you have to have that cool approach, like, or do you do the Drake sayings to a girl and see what she says?
I think that authenticity really beats out a lot right now, and obviously, like you want to have some coolness to you and some mystery because that's just awesome, and everybody likes that. Guys like that. Women like that. But, I think coming in and just being like, sup, and you, me, like that just doesn't work anymore.
Right,
like that's not the technique.
So what do you think works? What do you think works?
I think that, that people want to make sure that, you're genuine. Again, safety is important, I think, in this world.
Absolutely
people, we laugh about, these driving services. We hop in cars with strangers all the time now.
Sure.
But we want to make sure that, if we're having coffee with somebody, it's a genuine, safe person. So I would make sure, like, one of the things you could do is, you just approach it, you ask them something about them. I think that a lot of times it can be very standoffish where somebody comes in hot and they're, like, talking about themselves.
Yeah.
That's like, ooh. For women, I think that women genuinely want to have questions asked to them, but not too many where it's, creepy and, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, but I get just so turned off by women when I see a good-looking woman dating an older guy and the guy's a multimillionaire.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, what's wrong with this dude? Like, this isn't real. Like, why would you want to be in a fake reel? It doesn't.
Always the
case. It's
not.
It is the truth.
It's stereotypically the truth, but it's not always the truth.
But a girl, if there's a great looking girl taking care of herself and she's with some older guy, some multimillionaire has just money, because for money, I think that's the biggest turnoff in the world. I would never even talk to a girl like that. You know what I mean?
Right. But remember that, women also are more mature than men. So, maybe he finally reached her maturity level. I don't know. I mean, but no, I know what you're saying. It's a stereotypical thing. And, it's not fair to say because I actually do know some wonderful people that are in relationships like that. And, it's genuine. It's absolutely genuine. And for a woman to be just like that, like, it's going to show its true
is eye contact straight important?
Eye contact. Yeah, it is important. I mean, obviously, it's it's not a constant. Like, people.
What do you think? What do you think a woman's turned on by a guy? Like, if you see a good-looking guy in top shape, like
I think
is that the only thing, or is it the way you speak to someone?
Like you, I think that people want to make sure that somebody's taking care of themselves. But it's not always the same thing. So, sure, hygiene is probably important to most people.
Right.
But, muscles and, going to the gym, 5 days a week or whatever, that's not on everybody's list. It's not,
Well, that's true because a guy could be a nut. You know what I mean? And like, so you have to have your mental health awareness, strength too. So
yeah, I mean, what was that? That one guy, he was on the journey to, like, stop aging completely, and like he was just doing, all the workouts and the different anti-aging things, and I don't know, he was doing a lot. But anyway, I think they made They made like a whole documentary about it.
Really?
But yeah, and I mean, could you imagine? Like that would be somebody that probably a woman would not gravitate towards
Right.
because if he's so concerned with his appearance, he's going to be very concerned about hers.
Come on, this is your tips from Tia. Little segment here.
I didn't even get the whole tips in there.
Well, the dating thing is important because everybody's stressing about dating now. You don't. They go all over. They're on all these apps, and the apps are disgusting because you go on apps, you're talking to a girl, and it ends up being a transgender. Like it's bizarre stuff. Like, first of all, the worst part of me dating a woman, I met a girl on the app, and we went out. A couple girls, and it's the filters, man. Like you got to stop with these filters because what I saw on that picture, that wasn't you in person. Same. And I sort of had to basically say, I'll be right back and not come back, because that's disrespect, a woman doing that or even a guy doing that. I want to see the persons in that picture in front of me if I'm dating you. Right.
Correct. Now, I don't think that women should be shamed for their filters. They shouldn't. But if you're on, this journey to date someone, I think that you need to be very transparent, especially like on dating apps and things like that. Your social media, you want to throw on a filter or have some animal ears and nose on you. Like those,
that's fine.
That's fine.
But if you have to filter yourself enough, then don't go on a date. Get in shape. Make sure your face is taken care of. Take care of your skin.
Right.
That's what. Be the real person. Don't be doing some. The filter is good if that's really you. Stay in shape and make sure you look who you are in that picture.
Right. Yeah. Like, I think that it is important. And I have heard many, many guys have this issue with the filters. It is a problem. They end up meeting the person. It looks nothing like that.
Okay.
And, so ladies really calm down on the filters, I think.
All right, I'm done with this dating stuff. Yeah. Let's talk. Okay. So what's next for tips?
Well, no, I was going to say, take initiative is another one and smelling good. I think so. Guys, make sure that they smell good.
So my thing for a woman, you got to look good. You got to taste good. Make sure if I'm talking to you, you're talking to me. Make sure take care of yourself, body, and just basically be that person you say you are. You know what I mean? Just be cool. You know what I mean? Right. I just and just have fun. So, but that being said, what's next for tips from Tia?
Oh, tips from Tia.
What do we have going? Yeah. What's next for your company, your career? Because we only have a few minutes left. So
okay, so tips from Tia. It is being rebranded this year. It is going to, it's going to level up. It's going to be more like a Huffington Post or a Mashable, where it's a very self-serving site. You type in lemons and you get 10 articles on what to do with lemons. It's definitely going to be a resource. Right now, it's definitely aged, but it's still got incredible content on it. Right. I get told that on a regular basis, and it's got it has over 1 million unique visitors on it,
awesome.
And over 100,000 subscribers. So it definitely is a great resource for all things content and reducing everyday life stresses. So that is really cool. We're going to do a newsletter. We're going to get a subscription newsletter kind of out there where people will be able to get some really cool benefits being part of the paid subscription. And then I do the communication stuff, so I'm going to be up on a lot more stages this year,
awesome.
Helping people with their communication skills.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm excited to do that. I'm excited if you do your doing your speeches, your seminars and
yes, I love doing that, like the workshops and things like that.
Yeah, workshops, because you could actually help someone be a public speaker, basically, right?
Well, yeah, it's not even about being a public speaker. It's about just being able to communicate better.
Communicate with people. That's really important in life.
I work with a lot of celebrities, athletes, different things like that. A lot of executives. People are already pretty successful out there.
Yeah.
But they've they're not 100% confident in their communication skills, or they hit a ceiling and they're trying to, either establish more money or better clout in like their profession. They'll hire me and I come in and we just kind of break through that ceiling and find a better way to communicate. So like, let's say like an athlete, right? They're getting close to their they're either, in the beginning of their career, they're getting close to retirement, right?
Yeah.
They'll hire me and I come in and I help them just communicate better.
Awesome.
That way they're given better interviews. And then that opens up doors for them after they're done playing.
That's awesome. Well, Tia Christy, Tips from Tia. We're glad to have you.
Thanks.
Celebrity Fight Club podcast.
Oh, thank
See you soon.